Hello.
Hi.
We are done. We're officially done with this. This right here, epic bike. epicbikeride.org. How's that? Yeah, we're done. We're back home. This is Michigan. Those are trees in Michigan.
Yeah, we're finally in Michigan, in our house that might be sold in a couple weeks.
Yeah, that's news too. I don't know if we've told everyone that too, so let's not jinx it.
Yeah, while we've been doing this ride, we've also been negotiating and, you
Having
know,
lots of inspectors come through our
lots of
house.
inspectors. So hopefully we have a hopefully closing date of August 17th. Hopefully.
Fingers crossed.
So we'll see. Anyway, on to the ride. We
Hmm.
did finish. There's so much to talk about. This is probably going to be a long
Yeah.
video. Just
Sorry
to
in
forewarn
advance.
you. Yep. Um, so we did finish. We have final stats.
Hmm.
We finished on July 17th, which is a special day for many reasons. The most important reason is it's our middle kid's birthday. They turned 19, so happy birthday,
Birthday.
Tay. Yep, happy birthday. Um, Another reason it's special.
Is this was the exact same date that we finished the Route 66 ride on in 2018. So I rode from Chicago to Los Angeles along Route 66, the majority of it at least, in 2018, and we finished on July 17th also. So it was
Yeah.
kind of cool. We were a few days away from finishing this ride when all of a sudden it became clear, oh, there's a chance that we could finish on or around the same date. And so we really, really tried to push that last week so that we could make it on July 17th.
Yep, and we did that part as a surprise
Yeah, to the kids.
to the kids and my mom,
Yeah.
who were, we were able to FaceTime them from Banff. That was a really, really fun experience.
Yeah.
Another reason it was a special day to finish. It happened to be day 50 of the ride of his riding
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that was pretty cool once we saw that as well. We thought, wow, that's pretty special and very kind of, you know, all the stars aligning. Essentially, we wanted to do this ride for my 50th birthday. We tried to raise $50,000. We came up a little bit short, but it's still a success. And then it turned out to be the 50th day of riding was the day that we finished, and so we thought that's a pretty good day to just call it and be
yeah,
done and enjoy the rest of summer.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we did cut some corners to make that work, but
Yeah. Yeah, we
but
went off route. And what she
yeah,
means is we went away from the official route. Kind of the route went here, or let's see, here, and we kind of went over here, and then we kind of came back together at the finish.
yeah, and multiple reasons why we went off route. One is to push that timeline. Two is Mark's back was absolutely screaming the last
3 weeks,
three.
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number three was parts of the route were not drivable.
Yep.
And if you go through our journal,
Yeah.
you'll see why we didn't like being separated.
Yep. We tried it a couple times previously, and both times with not very good results, and some definitely
Moral
added
of that,
drama.
Yeah, moral of that story is we would rather be lost together
Yes.
than be lost separate.
Yes.
So anyway, that's all in our journal on
You can access
epicbikeride.org.
it right here. Yeah. There you go.
All right. So some of the questions I came up with over the last week or so of writing, I thought it'd be fun. How many days did we go without seeing a cow?
Man, not many. Let me think. I don't think we went a single day, right?
I
Like
don't think so.
we saw cows day one, and then we saw cows day two, and we saw
Right.
cows day 50, and yeah,
Yeah.
I think every single day we saw
every
some
riding
cows.
day we saw cows.
Right.
Now, when we to clarify, when we talk about riding days, there were 50 days that he cycled. There were some rest days in there. There were some,
Days with family.
days with family where
Yeah.
we went off to Albuquerque to see some of my family, and then we went back to Phoenix to see some of Mark's family. So we drove to those locations. So we didn't count those. So in total, we were actually away from home from May 16th to July
22nd.
22nd.
Yep.
So we lived out of our truck
For 2 months.
more than 2 months.
Yeah.
So that's what we mean when we say cycling days. So yes, I agree. We saw a cow every day that you were
Yeah, that's crazy.
pedaling.
Even, I mean, we were up at times, we were up at 11,000 feet elevation, right? And even up there were mountain cows that were
cows.
just
I didn't know that existed.
randomly mooing around and roaming around. It was crazy.
Yeah, we also have a video of some cows making noises I didn't know cows made, but
They sounded like, I don't even know.
Yeah, it sounded more like a donkey.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But that we'll share those videos someday. Number of days we went without seeing a single person.
Oh, I think there were at least 2 that I can remember where we didn't see a single car the entire day.
Or another cyclist.
Yeah. Yeah, it was some of this country was just so remote. I mean, the Great Basin sticks out, in my mind at least, because it was through Wyoming and it was like 3 riding days basically, or 2.5 riding days when there was nothing. There weren't any trees. There weren't any buildings. There were some power lines way off in the distance. There were mountains way off I mean, you could see for tens of miles in every direction, and there was nothing. It was just, it was incredibly unnerving a little bit. It was a little bit spooky kind of. Thank God we didn't have any mechanical issues or anything, because we would have just been hosed. But yeah, there were at least 2 days that I can remember where we didn't see a single car either pass us or come in the other way, which was just, I mean, that's kind of cool, right? That there are still places like that where you can just disappear and go off and choose your own adventure, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah. I guess I was surprised there wasn't more of that, to be honest.
Yeah.
Especially on the mountain roads.
Yeah.
I was surprised that there were so many people up in the mountains, which is great. I think that's great. Our public lands are being used. That's great. How about the number of days we went without seeing another cyclist?
I don't think there were. Well, no, that's not true. At the very beginning, yeah, when we started in Antelope Walls, New Mexico, and for those that maybe are unfamiliar, we went south to north on this route, while the vast majority of the racers and the people that are doing this for time, I guess if you want to call it that, went north to south, and so the first 2 to 3 days, I would say we didn't really see any other cyclists going either way. And then eventually we picked up Mark and Cam, who are also going north, and we kind of played leapfrog with them for 2 or 3 or 4 days or something at the very beginning.
I'd say once we got into Colorado, we really started seeing more
every
riders.
day, every day, and then it would be multiple people, And there were a few days there where it was like every half hour or 45 minutes we would see somebody, so we'd stop and talk and give them oranges and give them pudding and give them water.
Right. So that would have been like, I don't know, June 20th or so, because the race started June 14th in Banff, Alberta, which is where we ended.
Right.
And so once those riders kept coming through, that was cool. I think one day we counted 13. 13 racers.
Right.
No, I guess they weren't all racers. Some of them were. Some of them had started before the race date, so they were
just touring
like us. So yeah, that was that. I really enjoyed seeing other cyclists.
Oh, that was probably the best part emotionally, at least for me. There were so many days out there that were just parts of days where I was just not feeling it, right? Like of struggling. Just, I mean, some of these climbs, and maybe we'll talk about it more, I'm not sure what the questions are, but some of the climbs were just absurd, and so you just become I became frustrated, right? It's so hard. You're just either grinding in your lowest gear for an hour and a half or 2 hours at a time, or you're walking your bike up this hill, and your bike, is loaded down with 20 or 30 pounds of stuff on it. And so you're just pushing this thing up the hill, and you're like, well, am I supposed to be riding my bike, or am I out for a hike? And so part of it was very, very difficult. And so seeing the other people and then just talking to them, and, oh yeah, hey, watch out for this next section, or hey, it gets easier, or there's a nice downhill coming up, or there's this cool stream coming up that you can dip your feet in, or whatever, or giving them oranges. You should have seen people's faces light up when we said, hey, we have cherries and fruit and water for you, and pudding.
Yeah, the pudding cups were a huge success.
Yeah.
We would ask somebody if they want anything, and they'd be like, oh, no, I'm good. And then Mark would say, would you like a pudding cup? And they'd be like, yes.
I mean, it was one of those, it was a food that it traveled well. You could pack it away. It was easy calories. It was like 100 calories a cup. It tasted great no matter what the temperature was. And it settled easily in your stomach. So I found it to be a very good, quick, easy snack that I ate way too many of, probably.
Yeah, we were even being able to give water and food to some of the Continental Divide hikers.
Right.
It's called the Continental Divide Trail.
Yes.
So these were CDT people.
Yep.
We saw more than I thought we would.
Yeah.
But they were also very thankful to
have a little treat. Yeah.
That was fun. That was unexpected. I didn't know that was going to happen.
Yeah. We kind of became the unofficial tour supply wagon kind of for people. I mean, we gave out 2 different pairs of socks to 2 different cyclists, and
Cam and Sonia.
Right, and water, and oranges to so many people.
The oranges, other than the pudding, the oranges were the other very, very,
especially to the Aussies and the Kiwis.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, fresh fruit. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So anyway, that's about the cyclists we saw. What kind of animals did we see?
Oh man, we saw tons of stuff. Like early on, it was cows, obviously horses, and then deer, and then some elk. And then at one point near in Colorado, Hartselle, Colorado, I saw a badger cross the road. That was interesting. And then we ended up seeing moose. We saw Rocky Mountain sheep. We saw a bald eagle. We saw coyotes. I saw at least 2 different coyotes. I think, but I'm not certain, that in Montana I saw a little tiny black bear cub. But it was one of those, we were in a almost residential-ish neighborhood. The houses were very spread apart, but there were trees all around, and then it was a decent road, but in kind of a lakey area. And just out of the corner of my eye, I was looking at something else, looking down or looking off to the side or something, and I just saw kind of a black flash go across. And it just, the way that it was moving didn't process in my brain as, hey, that's a dog, or that's a cat, or that's something like that.
Cow.
It just, or a cow. Right. Yeah. And then, as I got up to where the area was, I just couldn't see anything. I looked and couldn't see anything. But my mind said, hey, that's not a dog moving, or a cow or a cat. And I think it might have been a small black bear cub, but I couldn't swear to it. So
yeah, a lot of people did see bears.
Oh yeah. Other cyclists.
Yeah,
Yep.
One rider told us that he had a cougar jump out in front of him.
Yeah.
That would have been
at 3 or 4 a.m.
He was from Australia. Yeah.
Yep.
So. That would have been.
Yeah, we didn't see any of those.
Yeah, we didn't see any real predators. We heard owls.
Oh yeah.
We heard coyotes.
And we heard another animal that we couldn't place.
It was
it was like, it almost sounded like a small child, but then also with like a mix of like
howl,
coyote.
Meow, like a meow. It was. It could have been a bear cub.
Maybe.
That was interesting.
Yeah.
But we never saw it.
Yep.
We made some noise to kind of scare it.
Right.
But nights we slept in a hotel.
3?
I thought it was 3.
2 different Marriotts, right?
Yeah.
And then
the
place in Dillon, and one more?
Mm-hmm.
Either 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Over 8 weeks?
Yeah.
Essentially. So not a lot.
not a lot of hotels. I was actually more comfortable in our truck bed
You slept
setup.
better
I
every
slept
night.
better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hotel beds kind of make my hips hurt.
Yep.
Um, Now, how about campground versus wild camping?
To me, it was I like the wild camping better. Like, and we're talking wild camping. We're just saying that basically, like BLM land, Bureau of Land Management land, or National Forest land,
Public lands.
public lands. You can essentially just pull off the side of the road and set up camp.
Well,
In
preferably
in a lot of the places.
yeah, and preferably in a spot where it's obvious
Yeah, there's a
other people
fire
have
ring.
camped there. There's
Right.
usually a fire ring. There's usually not any grass.
It's
So
cleared off a
yeah,
little bit.
yeah.
Yeah, I prefer that just because we're kind of still by ourselves. We went to a few campgrounds and they're great, they're nice, but it was always other people, right? And music sometimes or little kids. And the last one, holy smokes, there's one in Canada. These kids were just like zero concept of an inside voice versus an outside voice, and
Or
like
how far their voice carries when you're in the
correct,
woods.
especially at 10 o'clock at night. And so it was just, yeah, that was not my favorite, but just some of the spots that we went where it was dispersed camping or wild camping, and we're in like the most remote places or up at altitude, and it was just that was
Yeah,
really really cool. I
it's very
thought.
peaceful,
Yep.
relaxing.
Yeah.
Um, we had a great setup for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. What do you think the ratio of
Oh, of how much we
campground
did.
versus wild
I would
camping
say we
was?
probably did 75% wild camping and 25% campground if I had to guess.
Yeah,
I
I
think,
agree.
yeah, I think in the grand total of money that we spent on camping on accommodations for the entire 8 weeks, it was probably $400 to $500 max, because we spent, I mean, a lot of them were $25 campgrounds or $15 campgrounds, or occasionally like a $30 campground. And then like a hotel, I think the most we ever spent was $100. Um, and so it was just, that was that was probably the cheapest part of the entire ride,
Yeah,
right? Food and
honestly.
beverages was more, gas was obviously way more. So
Hmm.
that was, bike supplies were way more. It was, yeah, that was the least expensive part of the entire trip was accommodations, and it was great.
Yeah.
We got to, I mean, so many like just beautiful sunsets and sunrises. Although I wasn't really awake for a lot of the sunrises, but the sunsets were just spectacular in a lot of these places, and that was just my favorite part. Was just like, okay, we're done riding for the night. We've had dinner. Let's go lay down, and then like you could just stare out and
Yeah,
see
and
the
that's
sunrise or sunset.
one thing we learned to do since we're not early morning risers. Um, One thing we learned to do was whenever we were parking the truck and we had the choice, we would always park the tailgate towards the
West.
west
Yeah.
so that the morning sun would hit the cab of the truck instead of hitting us.
Yeah.
And it would be cooler for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Um, and that way, actually, when we're sitting there eating dinner on the tailgate, we'd
Yep.
be watching the sunset. So yeah, that was really cool. Um, Favorite. Oh, here's one. This is good. Times we dipped our feet in rivers, streams, or lakes.
For you, it's gonna be way more than me. I think I only did this maybe twice. But you probably did it
Yeah.
10 times at least.
I think it was only like four.
Oh,
I should have done it more
I was
because
way off.
I absolutely love dipping my feet in streams, rivers, or lakes. But when I was by myself, I was nervous too, especially once we were in grizzly country.
Yep.
I didn't want to go off, but yeah, I do love that. He does not.
No, I'm just, I don't know. Having like dirty and muddy and sandy feet is not my thing. Like if I go to the beach, I'm shoes on guy. Like I don't typically take my shoes off at the beach.
Yeah.
I don't like the feeling of sand between my toes. I
And
really don't like it.
that's one of my favorite
Yeah.
things. Um, favorite favorite camping spot.
Oh man, that's tough. There are a couple that just jump out to my mind immediately was uh oh my gosh, Lake Albeque, obviously. That was one, I think you're probably your favorite.
Yeah. In New Mexico. It's in
In New
northern New
Mexico.
Mexico.
Sorry.
Abiquiu is a town. Lake Abiquiu was actually off route, but we had gotten lost that day, so
Hmm.
we were planning to stay there anyway, but we were gonna have to go like the 6 miles off route to get there. But since we'd gotten lost prior to that, we ended up riding right into it.
Yep. Coming from the other side, coming from the west, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just beautiful. Red rocks, the water.
It's
It's a
gorgeous.
dammed up river. And yeah, so they've turned it into a fantastic lake. We had a great view of it from our camp spot.
Probably the best sunset of the whole trip
Yeah.
was
Yep.
there.
I would agree. That was high on the list. There was another one where we stayed in Colorado, and we were up at like 11,300, I think 11,300 feet, and we were kind of in this bowl where we looked out over. Um, Essentially, we had like mountains behind us and kind of wrapping around this way, and then we just kind of looked out onto like the meadow and the valley. It
Is that
was
where there was still snow all around
Yep.
us?
Yep. It
Yeah.
was super, super high elevations where you didn't feel
I
good
didn't
until
feel
the next
good.
day.
I didn't feel good
Uh,
till we got back down to 9,000 feet.
yeah, but it was just gorgeous.
It
It
was
was
pretty.
just, there were some deer running around. We were almost at like tree line elevation, and
Yeah.
it was just really, really neat. And it was, oh my God, was the climb to get there brutal. And so it was like, just for me at least, it was exhaustion. Okay, here we're done. Let's set up camp and then just kind of sit there and just relax and let the day kind of wash away.
Yeah.
That was definitely one of my favorite spots
Yeah,
to
that
camp.
was a hard day because we thought we were going to be able to get to dispersed camping
Yeah.
earlier than we did. And I think if it was just him on a bike, he
Yeah.
could have climbed up a ridge and camped.
Right.
But I couldn't get the truck there. So I couldn't get the truck off the road. So it wasn't safe. So yeah, that was, we were definitely there longer, or we rode longer than we wanted to that day. Least desirable spot for camping.
Oh my gosh, anywhere where there were mosquitoes, right? Probably
Yeah, it
one
was
of
interesting. We didn't get our first mosquitoes till Kremling, Colorado.
Colorado.
No
Yep.
mosquitoes in New Mexico, which I
Yep.
thought was, well, I know there's bats in New Mexico, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was time of year too, I think. Maybe
Yeah,
just maybe
it had
a little
started
bit
getting
too early.
warmer.
Right.
Yeah.
Although New Mexico had some we had some
Yeah,
heat there.
of course, yeah.
But yeah, Kremlin, Colorado, there was an RV park which was okay. It was okay-ish, but the mosquitoes were, it was just brutal. It was one of those where you're just like, I just want to go to sleep now.
Yeah.
And then mosquitoes got in the back of the truck and we're trying to kill mosquitoes, and it was one of those where you're like, oh yeah, this is why people hate camping.
Yeah. But I brought 4 different mosquito deterrents. So once we had all those going,
It was a little bit
it
better.
got better.
But for whatever
Yeah.
reason, they loved me this year.
Yeah.
And they typically don't attack me that much. And this year, I think it was just the sweat and the
Yeah.
not being clean. But
yeah, he definitely
I
got
was
attacked.
just getting murdered.
Okay, so besides the mosquitoes,
Ooh,
where did you not like camping? Yeah, I don't think there was any place.
I mean, there were some parts that we were more comfortable than others. Like,
Yeah, like definitely when we were like just literally on the side of the road and there was a lot of traffic going by.
Yeah.
I would not sleep well during those nights.
Yep.
Those weren't comfortable.
Yeah, we probably had 4 or 5 of those where it just, like
There
she
was-
said, just pulled off 30 feet on the side of the road, and that's where we're camping.
Yeah, I never felt comfortable doing
Yeah.
that. Favorite section to ride?
The downhill. Haha.
Sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes the downhill was treacherous, and you felt like you were gonna just die or fall off the side of a mountain somewhere because there were some switchbacks that were just. I mean, there's no guardrail, nothing. It's just dirt, and if you go,
Yeah.
if you're going too fast, you're going over the side,
Yeah.
and then it's
Maybe-
a long way down.
Or maybe a tree would catch you.
Maybe.
Which probably wouldn't feel good.
Right. Yeah, the best parts, I think, like most scenic versus, or just most comfortable on the bike. There was a downhill section coming basically in damn near the entire way down from Boreal Pass. Boreas Pass into Breckenridge, and then
That was pretty.
and then the part from Breckenridge to Silverthorne was just a paved bike path away from all the traffic for 20 miles, and it was just pancake smooth and just fantastic.
Yeah.
And after riding all the bumpy, stony, rocky, ledgy, you know, uh, just crappy roads, washboardy roads,
Yeah.
this was smooth and fantastic and just beautiful scenery, obviously. And it just that was
That was
one of
nice.
my favorite. And then the final day, pretty much the whole thing was just because partly because it was the final day, so I was feeling good, and partly because the scenery was amazing. Alberta, the mountains of Southwest Alberta were spectacular, and then they also had a paved bike path away from the road. And so I would say those two were just jump out immediately in my head of like, oh, this was pretty special.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest are some other stretches that were good too.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
For me, for driving it, I'm not sure. That's hard because I'll change it up. My favorite part of driving the whole route was when I was able to be behind him on these small mountain roads and just, go anywhere. When he was climbing, we were only going 4 miles an hour. But when he was able to coast, going 10, 12 miles an hour, coasting behind him and just being able to look around and
yeah,
enjoy and look at all the different colored flowers and all the different types of trees. And
yeah,
you don't get to see that when you're driving 45, 60, 70, 80 miles an hour.
right,
So I really enjoyed being able to go slow behind you, and I wasn't expecting that. I thought I was going to be bored to tears.
yeah,
But I really enjoyed being able to enjoy the beauty of this route from the truck.
yeah.
Yeah. Least desirable section to ride.
Um, am I allowed to say all of it? No, it was just so much harder than I was expecting. And I don't know. I'm not really sure. I guess what I was expecting, and I think that uh, definitely initially before we got to Salida, Colorado, my bike was not set up correctly. Like I had, it's a gravel bike, and so not to get too technical, but it's a drop bar gravel bike. The tires weren't super wide, and so
They didn't have enough tread.
tread, yeah, and so it was a punishing ride on the first probably 700 to 800 miles, I would say, and it was just. I mean, I don't know if my body ever recovered from just the shock, right? Of just, I mean, 'cause there were parts of the ride, a large portion of the ride was just rocky roads where you're just hopping from rock to rock. And I'm clamped on my brakes like as hard as I can. And I'm just going, 2 miles an hour from this rock to this rock to just jumping basically. And that was not a ton of fun at times because it was so rocky and so steep at points where if you crash, like if I go just tip over sideways, not even at speed, like just hit a rock wrong and lose balance and go down, there's a very good chance I'm breaking something, either on the bike or myself or both. And so that was stressful because you're like, you can't make a mistake. If you make a mistake, your ride is basically gonna be done.
Yeah.
Like,
And we did hear about that happening.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was tough. That was very very difficult to try to kind of mentally get through that, and that happened over and over and over and over again. And then you'd ride a section that was at least less steep, and you just kind of ride along and it was gravel or whatever, and okay. But then you'd get into another steep climb, and some of these climbs, again, 16, 17%. I mean, I don't know who's riding that, right? I could do all the way up to about 13% on unpaved roads. And then 14% and beyond was just I'm off my bike and I'm pushing, I'm walking up the hill. And even then it was tough. Like it was a different set of muscles, and it was very taxing and very hard and very, I mean, you're just dripping sweat, and it was just there was always think I told you that there were just always so many factors of like, hey, you're gonna go slower now, and it was just the road is now turned into just rubble or rock, and you can't go fast. You just physically cannot go fast, or it's gonna be a super steep climb, or it's gonna be a 40-mile-an-hour headwind now, or it's just going to be, you're not feeling good on the bike. And there was always a factor saying, hey, yeah, that's great. Now go slower. And it was never, now you can go faster. It didn't seem the route and the consistencies of the road made it so that you had to slow down, which was good and bad. But it took me a long, long time to adjust to that. Like, I was so frustrated in the beginning of just like, I cannot believe that I've been out here all day and I've gone 45 miles.
Yeah.
Like, that just, the numbers didn't compute in my mind. So I was sitting there at break stops with Kelly. She's, giving me food, and I'm just sitting there sweating and cursing. I'm like, how am I so slow? Like, I don't understand. We're never going to finish this ride. So that was a long answer, but that's kind of how it was.
Yeah, for driving it, the least desirable sections were the roads that had just divots, like 6-inch divots.
Yep.
Every, like, the
10
tires,
feet.
you couldn't avoid them. When every tire was in a different divot and the truck is having to, like, those were the hardest for me to drive. He could just navigate,
Right. Could kind of dive in and out.
And so he'd be like, oh, that road wasn't bad, and I'd be like, oh, that road was awful. And the washboard
was just no fun.
I
think we've talked about it on another video, but it's basically just reaching down and just punching yourself in the nuts over and over and over again.
I don't understand. I tried to look up what causes washboards. And there's something about the
high speed,
the high speed and the dryness if there's not a lot of moisture. So anyway, those washboard roads were awful.
We blame you guys for driving too fast.
What surprised you the most?
What surprised me the most? I would say probably just how hard it was. That was again, I'm not really sure what I was expecting.
I don't either, because it's a mountain bike ride.
Yeah, but I guess I thought, oh, it won't be that bad, right? Like, it's a mountain bike route. Okay, yeah, all right. I've done some mountain biking, like, no problem. And then it was just, everything was so much more extreme than I thought. Like, the road condition was in even worse shape than I thought. And then the wind was even stronger than I thought. And then the climbs were even steeper than I thought. Everything was like, you think it's going to be, it's going to be a 5, out of 10, right? Like, it's going to be, a challenge, but not like crazy. And this was like, I don't know, 97.5. Like, it was just, there were parts that, a lot of it, where I just was really confused and upset and wanted to be done so often. And it was just like, why are we doing this? Like, this is dumb. Like, I would come in and say that to her, this is dumb. Like, you ride 10 miles and it takes you 2 hours because you're going 4 miles an hour, and it's just, what am I doing? Like, there can be so many more other good uses of my time right now than this.
But then we would end up at a beautiful camp spot.
Or a donation would come in, or somebody would leave a comment, or somebody would send a text, and you're just like, okay, all right, like, enough of the pity party, like, let's go.
Let's keep going.
Right.
For me, what surprised me the most was the joy of providing water and food to the other cyclists. I'd never even considered that we would be doing that.
Right.
And the fact that we were able to, especially some of these people were really desperate for water.
Oh, and they were just so grateful, right? Like, they're like 2 guys, especially Mark and Cam, that we met, the first 2 that we met. and we ended up basically like we were riding through southern New Mexico together, essentially, or leapfrogging, and there were points where water was like
Yeah.
very scarce, like incredibly scarce, and they
Yeah.
were already thinking about this like 2 days ahead of time, and they're like, hey, like it would be great if like you could do a water drop like 12 miles up the road for us. And so like we were able to work out the logistics, and Kelly was able to get some water and
Yeah.
get it to the spot that they wanted, and
Yeah.
they were just so unbelievably happy to not have to worry about that, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that was
And
cool.
another writer, I'm sorry, I can't remember his name, that we met at a spot that was supposed to be a convenience store. Because our map would say, convenience store
Oh,
here.
Brian from Wisconsin.
Brian from Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And so we were counting on that convenience store too, but we
Yep.
got there and there was nothing there. And so he was counting on that, and then we pulled up and we were able to give him a can of soup and some
Yeah.
water, and he's like, "You just saved me."
Yeah.
So yeah, that was an amazing feeling and something
Yep.
that I was not expecting at all.
Yeah. Being the tour mom, basically, or the tour, handing out orange slices and
Yeah.
water at halftime. Yeah, that was
was fun.
fantastic. I love that as well. And everybody was legitimately thankful for
Yeah.
whatever it was, even if it was just an orange. They're just like, oh my God.
Yeah, and and that made up for the fact that Mark kept calling himself a cheater because we
Oh,
had
yeah.
the truck and
Yeah. I didn't have to carry a tent or a sleeping
Yeah.
bag on my bike. Like I do kind of still feel a little bit guilty just because I didn't get like the true experience of like,
bike packing.
right, carrying all your stuff completely self-reliant. Like if you don't have it, you don't have it and you're not
Yeah.
going to get it, versus like having the truck to fall back on and have brake stops, and
Right.
I could have a sandwich whenever I wanted. Like it was,
But that's the experience you chose to do.
yeah,
So I don't think it was cheating. I think it was the experience that worked for us
right.
as a couple because
Yeah.
I can't ride it for multiple reasons.
Yep.
So I think it's we made it our own experience. And
Yeah.
I don't think it was cheating. I think it was just doing our own thing.
Right.
What was most like you expected?
Probably just the scenery that everybody was talking about, the nature, the beauty of the entire route. Because it was always changing. Like that was one of the surprising things, I guess, is just how quickly it changed, right? Like the first 2 days was just
Barren, desert.
desolate. Whatever you think of when you think of desert, that's what it was, right? Sand, dirt, brown, a little bit of wind blowing, hot, and then just, okay, now we're climbing into the mountains, and
Yeah.
now it's completely different.
Yeah.
And then
I was so happy when
and then
we got
like
in the mountains.
yeah, but then like you go down 1,000 feet and it's a completely different kind of mountain and a completely different kind of tree and a completely different kind of vegetation, and then you go up 500 more feet and it's completely different. And so those just constantly evolving, constantly changing. Other than the cows were everywhere, but it was just constantly. And then you see like we kind of as we were finishing up and wrapping up and driving back, we're like, holy cow, there's farmland. Like we didn't really see
Yeah.
farmland, crops. We saw ranches, we saw
Hay.
horses, we saw hay, we saw cows, but we didn't see
Yeah, that's
corn.
true.
You
There
didn't
was-
see soybeans. You didn't see, apple orchards and stuff. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, as we're driving back home, we're like, oh yeah, there's a farm.
Farms. Yeah, that was interesting that there were no farms,
Yeah.
no crop farms along
Right.
the route.
But yeah, the beauty was just, I mean, that's why we did it, right? Or that's one of the reasons we did it. And that was as advertised. It was truly spectacular in certain places.
Mm-hmm.
And better than advertised, I would say, in a lot of places.
Yeah, I agree. I think the scenery was what I expected. Being raised in New Mexico, I've forgotten how much I love the mountains. I love the mountains.
Right?
Best and worst meal.
Oh, I mean, so are we talking non-camping related, or are we talking camping related?
No,
So
either.
I mean, the first couple times that we cooked for ourselves, that you cooked for us on our stove, were fantastic. I mean, it was just like you can't really explain how good ramen tastes,
A
or
cup,
just
the cup of noodles.
yeah, a cup of noodles or a can of soup is amazing when you've been riding all day and you're tired and you're exhausted and you're hungry and you're sweaty and you're stinky. It tastes like the best 5-star meal that you can have, right? Um, I guess best restaurant meal that we had, the pizza that we had or I had in Del Norte, Colorado. I know it's not Del Norte. I don't know why. That's what the way that they call it. It's DELNORTE. You would think Del Norte,
Oh,
but it's Del Norte. Anyway, we had stopped at a brewery there. I had a pizza that was phenomenal. Um, Another pizza that was in Dillon, Colorado was really good.
Dillon, Montana.
Montana, sorry. Some of the spiciest jalapenos I've ever had.
Worst meal?
Oh, yeah. Worst meal.
I remember that burger I had there was a bar.
Oh, yeah. That was
They were shooting a music video.
a country music
A
video.
country music video at this bar
Just
we were at.
our genre.
And it no. Yeah, and this burger, it was just like a boiled patty. It was awful. And I can't eat red meat very often, so I had wasted a red meat day on this awful burger.
Yeah.
So that's my worst. My best meal was El Garita.
Oh, yeah. La Garita.
La Garita, Colorado. Wyoming.
Colorado.
I think it's Colorado.
Either Colorado or New Mexico. I think it was
It
Colorado.
wasn't New Mexico.
Okay. It was
Anyway,
Colorado.
It was this tiny little restaurant, a tiny bit off the route.
Mm-hmm. Like 1 mile off the route.
Yeah, the freshest burger I'd ever had.
That was pretty solid.
They had grilled onions and grilled green chili.
Yep.
Oh, that was the best burger.
Yeah, we waited out a rainstorm there. We were there for like 2 hours uploading this journal and doing other stuff. But yeah, that was a very, very good meal. I can't remember 100% what I had. I think I had a burger as well. But
I think you had a sandwich instead of a burger.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway.
Worst meal, I don't know. Yeah, well, for me, it was definitely that boiled hamburger patty.
Yeah.
I think you ate pretty well.
I did, yeah. I luckily I was able to do a combination of restaurants and then I mean the cans of soup and the cup of noodles. I'm telling you, they were fantastic at the end of the day. So, I think I ate very, very well.
You're declaring no worst meal.
I don't think so.
Nice.
Yeah.
Most helpful thing that we brought, that we had with us from the get-go. What was the most helpful thing?
Probably the stove.
Yeah.
Honestly, like that thing. I mean, we were able to cook every night, just about. I mean, we didn't at the very, very beginning for whatever reason. I can't remember why, but yeah, once we started cooking in Lake Roberts, I think was the first place we broke it out, which was a great place to stay. Lake Roberts, New Mexico, was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was probably, I would say, we got the most use out of that.
That's true.
Yep.
For me, it's going to be our portable toilet. I have celiac, so that portable toilet came in handy. And the little privacy.
Yeah, we had like a pop-up
we had bought
2-person kind of stand-up changing room area, I guess.
Yeah, I loved that. Most helpful thing we bought along the route.
To brim easily, I would say. Like it's a rim that you
Sorry for the noise.
put around your bike helmet.
Yeah, I just bought one too.
And it provides shade. I think we bought it in Silver City, New Mexico, which was day 3, I believe. Maybe day 4.
That was
anyway,
a long time ago.
So it was very early on, but I wish I had it from the jump.
Oh, like, yeah, especially in southern New Mexico with no shade.
There were no trees to hide behind. It was brutally hot. So yeah, anyway, this thing, it stayed on in 40-mile-an-hour winds. The only bad part, I would say, is if you're in crazy, crazy strong winds, is it can act like a little bit of a sail, and so your helmet is kind of going up like this, and it's going up under, like it's pulling the strap underneath your chin.
So yeah, you actually did take it off.
Yep.
For part of the basin.
Yep. Just because the wind was so strong, it was choking me out.
Relentless winds in Wyoming.
Yes.
I don't know if I have anything for most helpful thing we bought.
I mean, just lots of groceries, right? I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I have an answer for that. Items we never used. There's a lot.
Yeah.
We never used. We thought we would have more access to electricity, but we
Uh-huh.
didn't. We never hooked up to electricity the entire time. So we never used the coffee maker.
Mm,
I would turn the truck on to grind coffee beans,
yeah.
but then we ended up buying some ground coffee
Yep.
just to
Save a
eliminate that
step.
step.
Yep. Oh, like the yeah. So we have an electric kettle that plugs in and boils water, and that's what she's talking
Yeah,
about, the coffee
so
maker.
I ended up just boiling water on our camp stove.
Right.
So yeah, we never used that. We never used our first aid kit. Nice. That's awesome. No
Yeah.
injuries that we needed that.
Right. Tourniquet. Never use that.
No, we never had to
Yeah.
use a bandage. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Mechanically, like the bike really, really performed well. Like held up to just unending abuse. Like coming off. I mean, just jolting. Right. Yeah, the bike was amazing, and especially once we got it dialed in Salida, again, not Salida, Salida, Colorado.
Yeah, that was
Got new tires,
absolute
cycles.
bikes.
Yep, or
Cycle?
bikes.
Cycle?
I-
That's a new word. Anyway, absolute
Bike shop
bike something in Salida.
downtown, right near the river.
They were amazing. Like they stayed
Fantastic.
open late. The owner came in on his day off.
Yep.
Like with 45 minutes before closing.
Yep.
He was amazing. So thank you.
Yep.
You know, I'm gonna go back to most helpful thing that we brought. Also, I'm gonna say the flated.
Oh yeah,
Our-
sure.
our inflatable camper shell that we bought specifically for this ride because we can deflate it and use it in the future when we're hooked up to our fifth wheel.
Correct.
So flated, it worked amazingly.
Yep. Lots of compliments on that.
Yeah, kept 99% of the rain out. I'd
Yep.
say only about 88% of the dust out.
Right.
Which is impossible to keep the dust out. I mean,
Yeah.
you should see our truck. It was
We'll post some pictures.
it was
Yeah.
filthy inside and out. Like
Yeah.
there were days where I selfishly would travel with the windows down because I love fresh air. So that meant all the dust got in the truck, but I didn't care. I just
Yeah.
love the fresh air.
Yeah, this
But
was
the
not-
deflated kept most of it out.
Yeah, this was not a ride where if you're scared of dirt or if
Yeah.
you're scared of getting dirty, do not do this
No,
ride because
we were
you'll
rarely clean. Oh, that's another good question. How many times do you think we showered?
Oh, I would set the over under at 8, and I would probably take the under.
Yeah.
Like it was, once a week was maybe. Yeah. I mean, there were obviously a few times when we were staying with family or friends that we took multiple showers on multiple days in a row, but there were long stretches of 5, 6, 7, I'm sure, days where we
Yeah.
didn't have access to a shower.
Yeah.
We used probably
So
too many
many baby
wipes, on days
Yeah.
that we didn't shower. And so we were clean-ish,
Yeah.
but I know that we didn't smell super great.
Oh yeah, we couldn't have. We were so sweaty and
dirty and
Yeah.
lots of dead bugs on my
Oh yeah, we have some great pictures of dead bugs all over.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and the truck. Oh, the amount of I feel like we took out species of bugs with
Yeah.
our truck.
Yeah.
All right. Anything you wish that we did have on the ride that we didn't?
Probably a different bike, realistically. I mean,
Wow.
just overall, I would say it made it a lot harder than it probably had to be.
Yeah.
I think there's a reason that people ride this on a mountain bike. Whether that's full suspension, front suspension only, like hardtail, or a no suspension bike.
Were there a lot of variety? I'm not a bike person, so
Yeah,
were there a
was-
lot of variety of bikes?
There was everything out there, like mountain bike wise. Like I don't know that I saw another gravel bike out there. And people were like, not bike shaming, but they're just like, oh, that's interesting that
Yeah.
you're riding that, and especially before I get the tires, I got slightly wider tires in the Salida and also grippier, like better traction, better tread tires. And so that definitely helped. But I think that having even slightly wider, like two and a quarter, 2 and 3/4 inch tires would have been better. I think a mountain bike would have been a little bit better. Um, yeah, it was just it's not what that bike is designed to do.
Mm.
And it was very clear very early on that, like, oh boy, like, I'm in for it, because this bike is, to be fair, it held up, it didn't have any mechanical issues, but it was not as comfortable as it could have been, I think. And
Yeah.
then for me, that was tough to overcome mentally, of like, oh man, I should have bought a different bike. I should have bought over,
Yeah.
2,400 miles of, I should have been on a different bike. Now, there were times when that bike was great. It was perfect, like on the paved sections, it was great. I mean, everything I wanted and more. But on
And
those,
on a true gravel road.
yeah, on a true
Yeah.
gravel road where it's just gravel, fine.
Yeah.
But on any kind of like rocks and stuff and rutted out and all that, sandy stuff, it struggled a little bit, and so I struggled a lot. But
Yeah.
what are you gonna do next time, next year?
What? Yeah. Are we going to do this again?
I don't know.
Maybe a different bike ride.
Yeah, maybe a different bike ride, maybe a different bike, maybe in a few years, once the kind of the edges of this memory cut round off a little bit, and we look back on it with fonder views,
Yeah.
right?
I mean,
There's just so many other fun rides that I
yeah.
would like to do.
For me, anything I wish I had. To be totally spoiled, I kind of wish we would have taken our mobile internet thing so we could have updated our journal more often.
Yep.
But I was kind of happy not having service, which surprised me. I found myself more productive on the days we had zero cell service.
Yeah.
Which I'm going to try to keep in mind. I'm going to try to not
Right.
be online as much. All right.
Should be a great time to plug our YouTube channel.
Yeah. Things we lost.
Oh, I mean, other than sanity?
Early on, I had sat on my glasses.
Hmm.
And luckily, just before we had left, we had gotten new prescriptions. So I was able to order a new pair of glasses and had them shipped to Mark's sister. And then she shipped them to Kremlin, Colorado.
Home of the mosquitoes.
Home of the mosquitoes. And so with these glasses, I do love these. I order them from a company called Pear. They come with toppers there's magnets right here, and so the topper's just magnet right on top. And there were sunglass toppers. I loved them. Love. I have a hard time with sunglasses. And I lost those.
In like 3 days.
3 weeks. It was 3 weeks.
It was?
Yes.
Oh.
I had them for about 3 weeks. So yeah, that was sad. Lost a pair of shoes.
Yes.
I left them on the bumper of the truck and just drove away.
Pair of slippers from the finest of dollar stores.
Dollar stores, yeah. Did you lose anything?
I don't think so. I'm trying to remember.
Well, at one point we had lost one of your cycling gloves.
Oh yeah.
But found it in the truck.
Yep. And it lost a rear light in the blankets of the bed somehow.
Yeah.
For like 2 days.
Yeah.
Found it though.
Thankfully. Oh yeah. Oh, and your front bike light kept falling off.
Yeah, probably fell off. I think 6 times.
The last time it fell off, you didn't even notice.
I did not. And she pulled up next to me and she's like flashing
flashing with this light. He's like, wait, that looks familiar.
Yeah, that was interesting. But yeah, it just some of these sections were just so rocky and bumpy that you're just doing this, and so the light just vibrated and fell off.
And I wasn't the only one to lose shoes.
Oh yeah, there were so many like just random shoes everywhere. We saw one in, I think, New Mexico where it was just, there was one sandal, and then like 5 miles later, there was its
the
matching
other
buddy
sandal. Yeah,
just
that
laying
was.
in the road. Just,
There were lots of shoes.
yeah. Yeah, that was interesting to
Yeah.
see.
Uh-huh.
And then we were on the Facebook group for this ride, and there have been, lost phones, lost GPSs, lost, I think, wallet, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there's been some serious stuff where that would have not been great. So
Yeah.
thankfully, we made it back with the majority of our stuff.
Majority of our stuff. I just have to order new toppers.
Right.
Yeah, I mean that's all. So did we go over our stats?
We did not.
Okay, so
50 days of riding
50 days of riding. Total mileage
that we rode
you rode.
was dun dun dun.
So our goal, the whole ride itself was 2,775,
Depending on the
which
route.
route you took.
I ended up riding 2,434.97 miles. Don't forget the 0.97.
Yeah, so that's a huge accomplishment. We did, like we said, we were very open and honest about it. We cut some miles out to save time and his back.
Yep.
And the parts I couldn't drive, we had to cut around.
Exactly. Sometimes we were forced to, sometimes we chose to. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that number, right? And then the total climbing was 143,285 feet. 143,285 feet. So I realized that they don't do it this way. But if you were to start at sea level and climb to the top of Mount Everest, we would have done that just under 5 times, which is...
That's a lot.
That seems like a lot. Yeah, that it was a lot. There was nothing easy on this ride. There was no section where you're just like, oh, I'm just gonna just relax today.
Well, except for the trail in Breckenridge.
Except for the trail in Breckenridge. Yes,
and
that was
Banff.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a fun ride. It was a great ride. It was a very, very, very hard ride. And
hats off to all of you people that do it alone.
Yes.
You are amazing.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Oh, and so for money, we at epicbikeride.org, we did this as a fundraiser for Cure Search, which is a research organization that is funding research specifically and only for pediatric cancer, for different types of children's cancer. They are funding studies and programs and treatments. Kevin was one of the kids that got a treatment that was funded by Cure Search. Unbelievable organization, curesearch.org, if you want more information on them. Make-A-Wish. There you go. Make-A-Wish. We were lucky enough to be a Wish family. We got to go to Disney World for Kevin's 4th birthday back in 2011. We were treated like royalty, and ever since then, we've tried to pay it forward to them. We do a 3-day, 300-mile bike ride, which we will be leaving for on this Thursday, 2 days from now. So we had lots of rest.
We've been home for 24 hours now.
Yep. And so we'll be leaving in 2 days for the Make-A-Wish 3-day, 300-mile ride. Wish.org is where you go for that.
And our team is Cruising for Kids with Cancer.
Yes. You can join our team. You can come ride 300 miles with us if you'd like, or less. And then the third one is DC Strong. This is a...
Oh, okay.
All right. This is a pediatric cancer support organization based right here in Michigan. It was started by a young man named Dustin Collier.
And his friends.
Who, while in high school, decided to form a 501c3 nonprofit to help kids fighting cancer. And Kevin was lucky enough to be one of the first kids that we helped. We saw these high school kids. We're like, what the hell is this? And so we've tried to pay it forward for them. I was lucky enough to be a volunteer board member for that organization for a number of years and got to deliver some care packages to some fantastic kids kind of all over the country. So dcstrong.org is how you get in contact with them. We did this as a fundraiser. Like I said, our goal was to raise $50,000 for my 50th birthday, which was a lot.
That's a huge goal.
And we are happy to report that we raised on this ride
$14,904.
There you go. So just a little bit short of 50,000, but what are you gonna do? It's better
Yep.
than zero, and
Yep.
if it helps even one or two kids, this has been completely worth it. So thank you guys for sharing the word.
We
Was
will.
that lightning? I think it might have been.
Yeah, I've heard thunder.
Okay.
We will keep this website open.
Yes.
Donations can be accepted
Yep.
for years to come.
Yep.
This bike ride or this website is the same one that we used for the Route 66 ride. So if you're just now seeing this video and it's
2032.
yeah, hopefully this will still be open. We gladly accept donations for these organizations to continue their missions.
If you want to follow along with our travels, how do you do that?
So we mentioned we're selling our house. We're planning on becoming full-time RVers for a couple years at least. We are going to launch our YouTube channel,
Which is called
Here, There, Everywhere.
One more time for the people in the back.
The Beatles say that too.
Okay.
Here, There, Everywhere. No commas, just the three words. We will
Here,
there,
everywhere. Okay.
We are going to be editing and working on all of our videos from
Editing.
I think I don't.
Okay.
I first have to learn how to edit videos. Our kids can help with that. They're savvy. Anyway, we're going to be launching all of the videos from this epic bike ride onto our Here, There, Everywhere YouTube channel.
Tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your friends of enemies.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get them out soon-ish.
In the next 65 years.
Yeah.
Yes. I think that's it.
I think that's it.
Yeah, it's been like an hour.
Yeah.
I feel like. Yeah. Again, if you want to go to the website, our website, epicbikeRide.org is how you get there.
Yep. Thank you for your support.
Thank you.
The encouragement, the donations.
Yep.
All of it. Thank you to all of our friends and family in Paw, Michigan for welcoming us home. And yeah.
See ya on Here.
Yeah. Here, There, Everywhere.
All right.
Yep. Look forward to our next adventure.
Bye.
Bye.